Welcome to another edition of Leo's Lessons. Today's lesson is one of my favorites. It's once again touching on the topic of the free market and what Adam Smith referred to as the invisible hand. I was a first-year economics student when I learned this valuable lesson. And I didn't learn it from a professor. I learned it from a teacher's assistant. He was from the East Coast, and he was always lamenting the fact that we didn't have Dunkin Donuts in the West Coast. Either way, he had a fresh cup of coffee in his hand every time I saw him. Because why? Well, he loved coffee, obviously, but he was also always amazed that he could get for $1.50 a cup of coffee with beans that were grown in another part of the world, in this case, Colombia. So it got me thinking about when you buy something, how did that process produce the convenience, the low price, when you think about the process and all those involved, that we have in a developed country like the United States. So to grow the beans, harvest them, ship them to all parts of the world, to unload them at the docks, all those things come together to give us the convenience of just dropping by, paying $1.50 back in the mid 1990s for a cup of coffee. So the best way to illustrate this is from an essay that I just learned about this year, but it was written in 1958, and the author is Leonard Reads, who himself was inspired by Freidrich Hayek. Freidrich Hayek wrote an essay titled The Use of Knowledge in Society, 1945. In direct contrast to the claims of socialists, Hayek wrote, quote, "This is not a dispute about whether planning is to be done or not. It is a dispute as to whether planning is to be done centrally by one authority for the whole economic system, or if it's to be divided amongst many individuals. Take this pencil and ask anybody if they know how to make it. Ask a group of children, a lot of them will raise their hands and say, yeah, pencil and lead. And that's fine, but how do you actually make it? So this essay will get somebody thinking about it. Why? Because what kind of wood do you use? We know now that it's not lead. We've heard over the years that it's graphite. How do you make the graphite? How do you make it stick inside the lead? So all those things the essay makes you think about. And so the essay starts, well, it's written as if the pencil wrote it. It's titled I Pencil, and it's a family tree and genealogy of the pencil. So it starts with the logging done in Northern California and Oregon for cedar trees of straight grain. So then Reed talks about the saws and the trucks and the rope and the countless other gear and workers to harvest and cut down the logs and carting the logs and shipping the logs. And in the mill, the individuals who make all the equipment that goes in a mill and how to operate the machinery and how much it costs. Then, of course, shipping them in railroads, whole other process requiring more workers, logistics on timing. And then when you get to make the actual logs, you dry them, and the process of drying the logs, and then you got to cut down the logs into smaller pieces that make up this pencil, the tinting, the drying, and of course powering the mill requires energy. And in the essay, it was Pacific Gas and Electric, which was a hydro plant. So all the concrete that was poured into the dam. So the key thing is that this process involved is very expensive. It involves numerous people. And as Reed says, not a single person on the face of the earth knows how to make a pencil. All the way down to the president of the pencil factory. Talks about the pencil factory back then in 1958, which still sounds like a lot of money to me, cost $4 million in machinery and building. And in that pencil factory, glue is applied. Graphite itself, in my opinion, is even more complex than the actual wood part of the pencil. It's graphite that's mined in Sri Lanka, and then it's mixed with clay from Mississippi. And so that process itself is not enough. Then you've got to increase the strength and the smoothness. You got to treat it with a mixture of wax from Mexico. So you get the idea that this is not as simple and as ordinary as it looks to our eye. So resins, waxes, the writing on the pencil, the paint, the numerous layers of lacquer. So that's the assertion that Reed makes. It's not just a complex process with a lot of people involved. It's actually a miracle. It's a miracle that it all came to be. The creative human energies, millions of tiny know-hows, configuring naturally and spontaneously in response to human necessity and desire in the absence of any human masterminding. So what's wrong with human masterminding? His point is this: once government has had a monopoly on any creative activity, such as, for instance, the delivery of mail, most individuals will believe that the mail could not be efficiently delivered by men acting freely. Here's the reason. Each one acknowledges that he himself doesn't know how to do all the things that are required for mail delivery, right? Think about the process. No other individual could do it. So these assumptions are correct because no individual does possess enough know-how to perform the delivery of mail. But in the absence of faith in free people, an individual cannot help but reach the erroneous conclusion that mail can be delivered only by government masterminding. And that's the point of this whole essay. The lesson is that you have to leave creative energies uninhibited. And if you have that, you have something like this that the free market will create for us. So again, in summary, there are a lot of people involved in the making of the pencil, but not a single one of them, not even the president of the pencil factory, knows how to make a pencil. Why? Because no one's got all the knowledge and all the know-how for all the different steps in the process of making that pencil to actually do it himself. So the invisible hand: prices, property, profits, incentives. Free people accomplish economic miracles of which socialist regimes will never achieve. The interests of countless individuals from around the world converge to produce pencils without a single mastermind. They also come together in free markets to feed, clothe, house, educate, entertain hundreds of millions of people at ever higher levels. And remember, this was written in 1958. If only Reed could see the advancement and the progress that we've made. The conclusion is economies can hardly be planned when not one soul possesses all the know-how and skills to produce a single pencil. Central planning is an exercise in arrogance and futility, or what Hayek called the pretense of knowledge. So I hope you never take a cup of coffee or a pencil for granted again. And remember, it's best if we have some mixture of former business people involved in our government, because they will be able to explain how difficult it is to centrally plan something and have it come out as efficiently and as fairly priced as the free market can do. Thank you, and please join me again in another lesson.